Hello and welcome to Tools in the Shed, a podcast powered by CarsGuide, ready to rip into car stuff that has caught our eye this week. I'm James, and with me is Chesto.
Hello all.
And Matt.
G'day. Welcome.
Chinese cars are increasingly common, but this week we're looking at some that are perhaps a bit too familiar. We'll talk about some fresh metal that's entered the CarsGuide garage this week. Matt's actually in some of it.
Yeah.
And we'll catch up with that modern philosopher and tech visionary in this week's Must Watch. So stay with us. But first of all, feedback. And a lot of it has been around the 300 series LandCruiser that we covered in episode 127 and the Kia Ute the week before. So Druss 999 says, oh, come on, guys. A giant ute is most cromulent in these end of days times.
Cromulent?
Wow. Cromulent. You guys heard of that word?
I think I holidayed there once, didn't I?
They're great with Vegemite on them, or you can have them with jam as well. How else are we to move massive amounts of life-saving toilet paper and hand sanitizer to our bunkers? What other vehicle would be more appropriate? Certainly not a Mitsubishi Pajero. And he says, Richard, there will always, in caps, be a roll of toilet paper set aside for you in my apocalypse bunker. No pressure.
Oh,
whoa. So, okay, well, we'll just leave that to Richard to return.
That sounds like it could be a cromulent situation.
Now, Millen Rogers is wondering if the 300 series has no V8 option. Will some buy a Y62 Patrol instead? It feels like there's still a market for a V8 powered 4x4 and thinks one of the big selling points for the Ram and Silverado is their V8. So he's one of those people that thinks that's a telling factor.
I think it is for utes, but maybe not so much for the bigger four-wheel drive wagons where people are more typically going to be wanting to tow something large or something like that.
Diesel. They want a diesel.
I think they want diesel because it's better on fuel in the distance running.
Yep.
My mail is more power and more torque than the current V8 diesel in the Cruiser anyway, so you'd be crazy not to take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, Millen says he might not be listening on the other side of the world, but he's on the other side of Australia in Perth. Keep up the great work with a thumbs up emoji. So thank you, Millen. Which leads us to, look, we'd had contact from Tunisia, Greece, USA, Russia, New Zealand, Germany, on it went, and all parts of Australia, quite obviously. So we put a shout out for people to let us know where they're listening from. So we got, now I'm gonna crush this. Here we go. Muanguzi Joseph. So it might be Joseph Muanguzi or the other way around. The 300 series can't come soon enough. So excited. Love the podcast from Uganda. BJ Banny is watching from Bielefeld in Germany. David M is watching from the Isle of Man. So sorry about the bike race this year, David. But anyway, next year
one of the great
probably.
motorsport events too.
Isn't it just? Afshin Eslami is in Auckland, New Zealand, because, of course, we already have our New Zealand correspondent, Wax 333, who lets us know what's going on.
Yep.
Daniel Cohen, he's American, but calls pickups Utes because it sounds more proper. Kia Ute sounds disgusting, but I'm all for a Hyundai Ute.
Right.
Daniel Cohen,
it's the
same guy, sorry, he came in with a second comment. Also, my Joel, whoever that is, wants to import a D-Max into the US after I showed it to him.
Wow.
Michael McLeaf, I thought this one was great, quite poetic, actually. Watching from the Arizona desert, USA.
Wow.
Regarding utes or trucks, I've had 25 vehicles in my life and only one truck, an 08 GMC Canyon. I have more great memories and experiences with that one truck than the 24 SUV or sedan coupes combined. I miss it and have recently gone on a serious search for a truck.
Wow.
How good's that?
Yeah,
so he's realised. Now here's another one I'm going to just get perfectly right. This is translated from Urdu. Brahmadag. Brahmadag is from Pakistan, and he's worried that the new 300 series will look the same as the 200. And DeCook came in and said that's how they like it because it's just so popular.
Yeah.
And Brahmadag said, and other names like DeCook had called out the 911 and the VW Golf. And Brahmadag said, that's other names in the motor world that I don't like because they can't get away from their heritage. Now, HSV Commodore of all places, is in Switzerland.
Right,
And wonders if the 300 series Land Cruiser will come back to Europe. Was sold there until about 2016 as V8 petrol only, but sold very poorly, at least where he lived, because a car like that on European roads is massive.
Yeah.
So I remember in the UK, for example, there were just furrowed brows everywhere. Like, what is this car doing here? So that's a fair question. Then we head off to, here we go, another name. I'm nailing this.
Come on, Jesse, out of the park.
Jorge Luis Bourgeois Cosio is following from Bolivia in South America. And he says a Kia body-on-frame pickup based on the Mojave with the Stinger powertrain sounds like a good idea. Says it'd be a game changer. But he gave us a bit of background on the South American market, which is fascinating. Has the cheapest gas in South America, 45% the price of neighbour countries, because Bolivia produces it and sells it to them. So they've got very cheap gas. So companies buy Utes like Hilux and the Nissan Frontier and Ranger, and on it goes. But the private market, it's F-150s, Tacomas, Tundras, the Titan. Wow. There's a waiting list for the F-150 Raptor in Bolivia because petrol's so cheap. He likes the idea of a twin-turbo Land Cruiser 300, but says the hybrid sucks. Mainly because South America is a lot like Australia. If you break down the hybrid in the middle of nowhere, ain't nobody going to be able to fix it out there. So that's his concern. Yeah. Now, so that's our kind of call around the globe. I thought that was absolutely brilliant.
People from everywhere, incredible.
Isn't it great to see that we're reaching so far with, what was just a fun little podcast?
You betcha. That's great. You betcha. Now, Lennon Fuller thinks it's sad we're going to lower capacities and bigger and more turbos. Prefers a new car or ute with an old school style engine. Loves the turbo diesel 42 Patrol and the Land Cruiser 70 series. Says we need more cars like that. So that's very much his point of view.
I tell you what, if you drive the Giga Yaris, you get a new appreciation for just what's possible out of a small turbocharged engine. That thing is an absolute walloper.
It's the same story with the Ford Fiesta ST, which has a 1.5 three-cylinder turbo, and it is an absolute menace of an engine. It's just the expectations. I guess people thought originally that smaller capacity engines were all about fuel saving. Now there's proof that you can push these engines and make them do some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I suppose it's just one of those mindsets that will take a little while to shift. Some people easier and earlier than others. Yeah,
mate. Chesto, is that kookaburra over your shoulder just having a chirp there? Or?
Yeah, I've told him to keep it down while we're recording the podcast, but he will not listen. I don't want to get him on. He hasn't moved in a while.
Oh, someone's obviously strangling a parakeet or a parrot or something like that. Okay. Now, David Burt says the Toyota 300 series engine choice for Australia will be interesting. That's absolutely the case. Will the conservative types be open to smaller capacity engines or a hybrid? He's suggesting there'll be a huge uptake on the 200 series this year before the 300 comes in. Yeah, those conservative types will do that.
I've heard that argument before. Just a quick update on those engines for the 300, by the way. So the rumour, the mail that we're getting is that it will start with the diesel and then the hybrid 6 petrol. So the diesel V6 is a fairly conventional powertrain, just 2 cylinders less than currently exists. But if you want to be a bit more adventurous, it will follow with a hybrid in time. But so there'll be something for everyone there, I think.
Okay, cool. Well, it's interesting because Kaylin Phillips, who is in the USA, says, I'm interested to see how the hybrid will get on as far as reliability goes. I'm looking for at least 15 to 20 years out of mine. So he's intending to buy. So there you go. That is a long lifespan for a vehicle like that. Now, Michael Lee says you'd never buy a Kia Ute because Kia is a girl's name. And I'm not going anywhere near that. But he used to work for Hyundai in China. And he's looking forward to Hyundai Ute, pretty much the same as a Kia anyway. He's also interested in the LDV Trail Rider and Great Wall Cannon. Now, the problem he's got is that he wants to, we've got the story actually, it's called Chinese Car Brands Explained, if people want to go and unpick that spider's web of who's related to who in the Chinese car market. he adds that LDV is owned by SAEC, which is government-owned.
Mm-hmm.
Great Wall is publicly owned. I'd like to see Great Wall thrive, but I like the look of the Trail Rider. How do I choose? So we're not going to get into any political arguments here. I think it's got to be about the product, yeah?
Yeah. I would think so. And also the Great Wall Cannon, if that's what it's going to be called, if they're going to follow anyone's lead, it'll be every other Ute in the segment. So you can expect a range-topping model that will mimic Trail Rider and so forth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Or more even the Ranger and Hilux, I think, are the two target cars for their testing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just on that Cannon, by the way, I think it is going to be, I don't think it'll be called the Cannon, but I think it'll be pretty special when it arrives. But I think it's going to arrive a little bit later than we expected. I think it'll fall victim to the Corona craziness.
But it won't be called the Poer, will it?
It will not. It will.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, I agree. So I suspect it won't be called either of those, but we'll have to wait and see.
So for people who haven't seen that story, it was going to be called PO'ER, as in power, but without the W.
Actually, it's a contraction of power, peak, and perfection. And the name is none of the above.
That's a description some might apply to your good self, Chester.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that name choice would be poor.
Yes, I tend to agree.
Too true. Now, Dylan Green says a GR Hilux, especially with a turbo diesel 3.5 litre V6, may start a Toyota versus Ford rivalry. That may also push Ford to go ahead with a V8 Ranger Raptor. So it's a win-win for everyone. He's ready for a Ute arms race from Hyundai and Isuzu. He's up for all that.
I've got bad news for him. I feel like we're already in one.
Good story.
Yeah, it's been going for a while.
I'm going to put the following few, there's just a few to go under the general topic, heading. David Burt chimed in again and said, the Santa Fe interior, we looked at that in Cars in the Garage last week, looks like a wool job from the 1980 Toyota Corolla CS. And I would say, so what's wrong with that? That was a fantastic interior.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke.
De Cook, who has come to Australia from Germany, he's living in Sydney, spotted a Cerato GT sedan for the first time, and he and his wife stopped dead in their tracks, and she just said, wow. So he's loving that car. He reckons the Audi A3 sedan, the only bearable sedan as far as he's concerned, has just been dethroned. So he's walking through Potts Point, seeing the Cerato GT sedan, and that's it for him.
Wow, big call.
It is surprising how many of the Cerato sedans that you see are that top spec model. There's so many. They're doing really well in that $35,000 area, despite the fact that they sell the Cerato from 20 grand drive away. So good on them.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Neza has come in and says, does Australia get the Defender 90? And my mail is that, yes, we do, but it follows the 110. So I think the 110 is middle of this year or whenever it ends up being, and the 90 follows 6 months odd after.
And for what it's worth, I was there for the unveiling of those cars. Where was that, actually? I'm losing my mind. Which motor show was it? They've all started to blend together. Anyway, and I can see that the 90 is the pick for me. I reckon it looks absolutely amazing in the middle. It's awesome.
Well, Neza actually says, I wonder if it will be popular enough to bring back the 3-door Patrol or LandCruiser.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Prince Dog says, I doubt the Defender 90 will sell. You hardly see any 2-door Jeep Wranglers since the 4-door was released. And I suppose it is the look of the vehicle versus its actual utility. It's easier to use. It might look great, but it'd be a pain in the backside after a while.
And if you've driven a 3-door Jeep Wrangler, you understand why people buy the bigger version, because it's got the longer wheelbase, it's much more comfortable, and it's also not cheap enough compared to the Unlimited or the 4-door version. So like if it was 25 grand cheaper, you'd go, okay, sure. And it's also the same reason why people go for a Mini 5-door as opposed to a Mini 3-door now.
Yes,
so
that's right.
The option's there. It's not that much more expensive. You do it.
Yeah. Eventually, the cool factor wears off, and you're just left with the inconvenience, aren't you, of a 3-door? That's the problem.
Yeah.
Chester, you're turning into Dr. Doolittle before our eyes and ears here. Is that your dog about to kill that bird?
Yeah, that's our little 5-kilogram corgi keeping the house safe. So
that's good.
Robbers beware.
Good. Now, our old mate Hammer Rocks has chimed in with, he says, Alfa Romeo 159 wagon, Land Rover Discovery, and Jeep Rubicon Unlimited are vehicles I would have loved to have experienced owning, but with their reputation for having inconsistent build quality, reliability, and durability, I didn't want to take the risk on my hard-earned money, nor my sanity. So he's stuck with German and Japanese brands and haven't regretted it one bit. But says, I really do like the new Defender. So he's obviously kind of mulling over, do I jump into that? But I've had my reservations before. Yeah. And De Kock added, he learned the hard way. He had an Alpha 159 and nearly brought him to ruin. So,
I've heard a few of those stories.
Hey, there's a really good way in places like America. There's a good way to scratch the curiosity itch when it comes to cars. There's a rental company called Turo, and you can basically
I've heard of it. Yeah,
choose from millions, well, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of different cars all over the states. So you might be able to drive a Corvette one day, F-150 Raptor the next day, and it's not that expensive. It's like $150 a day, depending on what car you're going for. But it's a really, really good way to scratch the itch.
Awesome. Oh, that's good.
Can I raise one quick point too there before we move on? If you are considering buying a car that's a little different to the norm, please go and do it. Roads filled with just German sedans or German SUVs. I can think of nothing more boring. If you are in the market for something a bit quirky, I implore you, please go and get it. Do us all a favour.
Yeah. Well, Chesto, you and I have spoken about, fractional ownership of a couple of different cars. And I know M4 does his best to keep the byways interesting.
Oh, always looking. I'm always window shopping. Never
very
buying,
good,
but always shopping.
Now we'll finish off with two from Terry Toucan N. So Terry Toucan N, a couple of podcasts ago, came back with a comment that said, "The G80 is as sexy as you, big boy." And we were theorising which big boy it was that he thought was sexy. But he said, "Fellas, I left the S off." So it was big boys.
Big boys.
Thanks for the correction. And he says, just to be clear, I'm as straight as an arrow. And then Terry, he came in again and says he's keen to buy a new Supra, but he's waiting for car salespersons to be begging for a sale. He's a hard man. Yeah. He made some unspeakable comments about pineapples and where they might be shoved, and asks us to rate the car. Cheers, boys. Loving the show. Top job. So
rate the Supra?
The Supra, yeah.
It's awesome.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
I haven't spent enough time in it. We do have one coming through in a couple of weeks, which I'll be doing a review on, and I'm really looking forward. It's probably the car I'm looking forward to reviewing most so far this year. So
it's not only is it a huge amount of fun, but if you're waiting for dealers to be stuck with them, you might be waiting a while because they came in really limited numbers. So that's not one that you're probably going to get a deal on anytime soon.
Well,
Sorry, Matt, I was going to say, people that got in early and bought one ahead of time took advantage of the demand that hasn't been met by the supplier.
Yeah,
there are some expensive Supras out there.
Hey, that's true. That's right. Well, I went to the local launch and got to steer it around Phillip Island, which is a big circuit, but that car was well up to it. It was huge fun around that place. And look, I know it's a BMW under the skin. It's a shared model. But it felt like a Toyota, whether that was psychological or whether it was some aspect of the way Toyota has tuned the car, mechanically or suspension-wise. It feels good. I really like that car.
I actually think it's the best of both worlds there. You get the best of the BMW stuff, the best of Toyota stuff. That's a really successful partnership for mine.
And you get 2 years extra warranty.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And you get and you pay about 25% less, I think, from memory, or 20% less than you would for the BMW version. So it's a no-brainer.
There you go, Terry Toucan N, big boy. That's our thoughts on the Supra. Now, we are going to move to our main subject for discussion, which is, for want of a better term, knockoffs. And Chesto, you produced a story for us during the week, which was around the Chinese manufacturers' propensity for this kind of behaviour. And you came up with a top 5.
Yes. So look, I should preface this by saying China's doing great things in the world of car manufacturing. We talked about the Great Wall Cannon, MG selling hand over fist in Australia. So they're not just moving in the right direction. They have moved in that direction already. But that's not to say there's still not a little bit of hangover surrounding the knockoff factor. And I know you think these things used to happen a lot years ago, but they are still happening now. And this story was sparked by a car, and I'm sure there'll be a photo up in just a moment, that is called the Hengshan Elle 600, which is a dead ringer for the Toyota LandCruiser.
Which Crafty calls the Hang 10.
Yeah, the Hang 10. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and when I talk about recent, I mean, this car is yet to hit dealerships. It was supposed to be unveiled officially at the Beijing Auto Show. So again, it's not some backyard special, and it's sort of filtering into dealerships across the country as we speak, and it's about to go on sale. Now, those of you who are dying for a V8, this one does get one, a 4.6 litre V8, makes about 210 kilowatts, and you can have 5 or 7 seats. But I guess it's about the same, roughly the same size as a LandCruiser as well. But I guess the critical part is that it costs $42,000. And if anyone's been shopping for a LandCruiser lately, you'll know that's a hell of a bargain.
Yeah. Unless it's 10 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, not unlike the actual Toyota as well, to be fair.
That's right.
That would make it younger than the current 200 series, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, that sparked us on a bit of a knockoff adventure. So we started sort of digging around and finding some of our favourites over the years. Probably the most famous one is a car called the Landwind X7, which is a dead ringer for one of the most sort of iconic car designs of recent times, which was the Range Rover Evoque.
Yep.
Now, the Landwind, this is quite rare for Chinese knockoffs, actually. The Landwind looks so much like the Range Rover Evoque that JLR actually successfully took them to court. And a court in Beijing found that it had mimicked 5 key design features from the Range Rover Evoque, which left us wondering, only 5? It looks like it's mimicked 100% of it.
Unless, that's right, the key design feature is, geez, it looks like an Evoque.
Exactly.
That's it. You only need one.
Now, you might find a bit of a running theme here in terms of price. This thing costs about a quarter of what you'll have to pay for a genuine Evoque. You get a little 2-litre turbocharged engine or a 1.5-litre turbocharged engine. And look, I don't imagine it's a whole lot of fun to drive. But, you know, if you're just parking out the front of your house, you're getting all that look for a quarter of the price. But they have actually now put a production freeze on that vehicle, and they're going to have to pay JLR some sort of compensation for doing such a blatant rort.
Yeah.
Which leads me to my next favourite rort.
This is my favourite. This is called and I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, so if anyone can back me on this, please do. I'm going to say the Yuusha Ranger X, which looks identical to a Tesla Model S. Now, this thing launched in 2015. A 28-year-old sort of Chinese Elon Musk unveiled it as this idea that it's going to revolutionise the way electric cars work. The only problem was an investigation by Chinese media outlets discovered that under its very lightly tickled skin, it was just a Tesla Model S. There's a Model S.
There's really not a lot. Doesn't really shift the needle all that far, to be perfectly honest with you.
That's great.
Anyway, that thing came out in 2015. That company attracted somewhere in the vicinity of US $3.3 billion in private funding. Wow. So people really bought into this concept. The only problem is it's now April 2020 and we are yet to see even a single car.
Yes.
I'll burn through 2 more very quickly for you.
No worries.
Another one of my favorites. This is the Jangling T7, which is, I've only included it just to prove that Utes are not immune to this. This thing is the VW Amarok. It just is.
It just is.
To its credit, it gets a 2.8-litre diesel that's taken from Isuzu. So actually, it's potentially quite a reliable Chinese knockoff. And then last but not least, I will lead you to probably the car, and you'll see this from the photos, the car that I think is the most sort of knockoff-y of the knockoffs. And this is the Zotier ZR9, which it's a Porsche Macan, or Macan as we now know.
The Macan.
Really, I mean, there's no other way around it. Now, this thing is a fifth of the price of a Porsche over there, which given Porsche pricing isn't particularly difficult to do. But the interesting thing about this is that it too gets the 2-litre turbo engine or 1.5-litre turbo engine that you might remember from the Landwind, which made me do a little bit more digging. And it turns out that there is like a Mitsubishi co-supported factory in China that bangs out these engines that are then picked up by all these companies doing sort of knockoff cars. So you have it doesn't matter if you have a Macan or a Range Rover Evoque or whatever, you're always finding these same engines popping up again and again because people are just shopping at the same store for them.
Yeah.
So there you go. Knockoffs aren't dead.
It put me in mind of a couple of others from like more than 10 years ago. The Lifan 320, which was a Mini. That was basically a new Mini. And the Beijing Auto Works B60, which built a Hummer. They basically made a Hummer. That was fantastic. But Chesto, you and I were talking yesterday about the whole concept of trademarking and copyright and what have you in China and how problematic that can be. And it put me in mind of a podcast I listened to where a guy realised that there was no such thing in China as ice cream vans, no ice cream trucks. And they were a big deal in the US. So he thought this is an untapped opportunity got to Beijing and Shanghai, set up his business, got all the licenses to operate in particular areas. He had people lined up around the block. The trucks weren't even mobile. They couldn't go anywhere because there were so many people ready to buy ice creams. You think, this is it. I'm on my ticket to heaven. And then some of the people that he'd employed started getting their own trucks, painting them in exactly the same colours and selling ice creams and just carving up his business.
Yeah.
So he went to the authorities where he'd got his license and said, you've got to stop these people trading on my name. And they said, that's a problem. We'll look into it. And then came back to him and said, we've got the solution. We're going to take away your license so that everyone can trade freely. That was it. Destruction of a business.
Perfect.
Absolutely amazing.
Like, that ends the problem. Then no one has an issue with the copyrights.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I like to think that it's starting, and certainly in the car world, I like to think that it's starting to fade away. Most of the examples I gave you are from about 3 or 4 years ago, or 5 years ago. But clearly it's not gone altogether. But, the mainstream brands that are producing proper cars are doing it better and better.
Oh, absolutely.
And so many of the Chinese brands now have realised that they might need to buy in external experience and build better looking cars that are designed better and built better as a result of that. But also the Chinese market has such a rich sort of mix of cars and SUVs that now there's a distinctly almost Chinese look for a lot of these new models.
Yeah.
So
good point.
They're generic and derivative, but with their own sort of taste and features that we don't necessarily see on the Koreans or the Japanese SUVs that we're seeing coming here.
That's
True. All right. Well, that is fantastic. If we've missed any, it'd be great for people to chip in with the ones that they're aware of.
Send me
but we're going to move to our garage now. And Chesto, I'll kick it off with you. You've been in a Skoda. Yes. It's a Kodiaq, but it's a particular type of Kodiaq.
Yes. So this is Skoda's first RS badged SUV. So it's the Skoda Kodiak RS, or in other words, the sort of go fast version. It's fitted with its most powerful diesel engine. It also famously, I can't remember the time, but it did famously set a lap record at the Nürburgring for 7-seaters with the great Sabine Schmitz at the wheel, if memory serves.
Oh, yeah, great.
Which really just kind of proves to me that there's a lap record for absolutely everything. In fact, your bloke with the ice cream van should head over there.
Yes, that's true. For the Mr. Whippy Cup.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll just quickly give you the nuts and bolts and then tell you what I think. So basically, it gets a 2-litre 4-cylinder twin-turbo diesel engine, good for 176 kilowatts and 500 newton meters, 0 to 100 in 7 seconds. But I guess the key thing to remember about this car, and actually the thing I like the most about it, is that it's not really a performance car. I think that's, you can't really label it that. It's not super quick. It's not super hard or loud or anything else. So while if that was a hot hatch or something, that I would count that as a negative. But given this is a 7-seat SUV, it's actually a positive because if they made it too hard, too loud, too annoying, it would fail at its core duty of sort of shifting your family through the suburbs. So what it really does is provide mostly comfortable transport for the family when you need it to, and it can turn it on a little bit when you want it to too. And for a 7-seat SUV, that's a pretty good mix. That's a good blend.
Brilliant.
And as we know, Skoda has such success in Australia with getting people to buy the top spec version of everything, which is against what Skoda is actually designed to do. It's designed to be the affordable Volkswagen little brother.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's not what happens in Australia. So this will be a success story for them, no doubt, right?
There is one small downside there, though, I got to say, in terms of buying the top spec model. Now, this thing is $65,990. Now, that in itself is a big number, but it's an even bigger number when you consider that it's $12,000 more expensive or thereabouts than the second tier, which I think from memory is the 132 TSI Sportline, I think. Either way, that's a pretty big jump from second tier to top tier, especially when it doesn't actually provide that much more performance. The 132, again, I'm going off memory here, but it's only about 1.2 or 1.3 seconds slower to 100. So you're not buying that much more performance.
All right. Well, that is fantastic. It's a great addition. Looking forward to maybe experiencing that one.
It's a lot of fun.
Matt, you're very close to the car that you've been driving this week. In fact, you are behind its wheel. So fill us in.
Oh, how about I show you? I'll give you a bit of a tour, right?
Yeah.
So if I can swap my camera around, this is the Renault Master van, and it's had a pretty major update inside and out. Even though this is a very elderly statesman in the van segment, it now has a new media screen here with, it's a 7-inch screen with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It used to just have a single radio DIN thing, which was horrible. It's got reshaped vents. There's been a reshape of a few different storage things. Sorry about the mess.
So that's a manual transmission.
Yeah. So there's the choice of a 6-speed manual, and it's a 2.3 litre turbo diesel, no matter which one you're getting. But the auto or the semi-automated version has a single turbo setup, where this one has a twin turbo. So it's not a bad engine. The manual's pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to get out and show you. It might be a bit noisy because I'm at a truck stop. So that's the rest of the interior there, right? I might just grab the key in case the rear door's locked itself. But this is the big boy that I've been piloting. He's quite large. It's the mid-wheelbase version, or the L2H2 in Renault talk. So it's got the second length available and the second height roof available. And I'll show you the cargo zone, which is quite large. I could have actually just moved into here, to be honest, but instead of moving out to the countryside. But yeah, it's got all the stuff you'd expect. You've got tie-down hooks and you've got a bunch of different tie-down areas. And it worked really well for what I was using it for. So it's been an impressive vehicle for the week for me, but crucially falls short in a few ways. Jump back in so it's a bit quieter. So it misses out on a bunch of the safety stuff you might expect in this day and age. So there's no AEB, there's no active lane keep assist, there's no blind spot. Well, you can get blind spot as an option. But a lot of the safety stuff that we've seen from the Mercedes Sprinter, the Volkswagen Crafter, which are its two main rivals, have left this this van, a little bit behind the times. So it's both impressive and a little disappointing, but, geez, it's done the job for me.
Is it cheaper, Matty, than the competitors as a result?
It is, this one's 48 grand drive away, thereabouts. So, yeah.
Very good. All right, well, I'll chime in with the fact that I've been driving a Lexus RC F, which is a great survivor in the sense that it has a naturally aspirated 5-litre V8 under its bonnet, not a turbo in sight. And it's 162,000 Australian dollars in the form that we've had it, which has an enhancement pack 3, which is a whole series of options, too tedious to detail here. But it's 351 kilowatts, but you get that peak at 7,100 RPM. Like, that's got to be just under its rev ceiling.
Yeah.
And 530 newton meters, which is plenty, but that's at 4,800 RPM. You become spoiled by that turbo torque so low down. This being an Atmo engine, you really have to want it and go higher in the rev range to get that kind of push.
Yeah.
But having said that, 3,000 RPM is pretty strong. And in fact, the further you go, it sounds great. No turbos to get in the way of that exhaust. And it sounds fantastic and actually pretty ferocious when you start to get into the sweet spot. And in talking of sweet spot, you've got Eco, Sport and Sport Plus mode. Sport is the sweet spot. Eco takes the edge off. Sport Plus is really for your track days. Sport is great. The car's very responsive when you're in there. Now, it's 2+2, but rear headroom is tragic. It is just not really a car that you're going to sit anyone that you like in the back of. The brakes are great. The seat, the driver's seat is superb. It feels like you're in an aftermarket Recaro or something like that. It's that good. But for that kind of money, it's worth calling out that you're in Merc AMG C63 coupe type territory, and that's quite a car. So some strong competition, and that is a turbo. You're getting 700 newton meters at 2,000 RPM in that car. And if you're the kind of hoon that wants to just impress your friends, that's where it's all happening, you know. And also, I couldn't help thinking that a BMW M2 competition, much and all as it's just been discontinued, there'd be some in dealer stock and people would be ready to do a deal. You know, for 60 60K less. That's a 300 kilowatt plus little rocket that would hold a lot of appeal.
And there's the M2 CS coming as well very shortly. At 135 grand. So and I love the M2 so much. So,
it's a proper M car,
I've argued for ages that I reckon the M2 Comp is just about their best M car they do.
I agree.
It is an absolute and a steal for the money. It's a hell of a car. Sorry, Lexus is good too.
I can't say I haven't enjoyed driving the car. It's just when you get down to the nitty gritty of its competitors and the dollars, I suppose, it might have you considering alternate options. But yeah, it's a ton of fun.
Has yours got the dirty big wing on the back, JC, or was that just the track edition thing?
Thankfully, no. Yes, that was just the track edition that had that, and that did come through the CarsGuide garage for a little while. Yeah. And yes, it was a little OTT. Not really into that one. But speaking of over the top, it's time for Musk Watch. So, first up, CCN, which you would have to guess might be just a little play on CNN, says that Elon Musk, or their view is that Elon Musk is looking foolish as Tesla cuts salaries after his dumb coronavirus tweet. Yeah. So, in March, he downplayed the coronavirus threat and actually tweeted that the panic over the virus is, quote, dumb. Now, look, glorious hindsight. I'm sure there were others that were in a similar boat, but a month later, Tesla is now forced to place many of its 50,000 strong labour force on unpaid leave. And to add insult to injury, Tesla employees will see their salaries slashed by as much as 30%. Yeah. So the Chinese factory had to go down for a while. Employees working from home will take a 10 to 30% temporary salary reduction. Non-essential employees who cannot work from home will be placed on furlough until May the 4th. So I bet the affected employees don't think the panic over the coronavirus is dumb.
No, mate, as the death toll continues to skyrocket in the US,
absolutely.
That's not looking good in the lens of history.
Now, look, on a lighter note, dronedj.com, which is a website I regularly frequent, says that Musk fanatics are hungry for any images of his operations, even the construction site of the Tesla Gigafactory in Germany. So there's one of Musk's super fans is a 13-year-old German boy who goes by the name Tesla Kid Grunheider. For about a year, he's been shooting and posting drone videos of construction at Tesla's new Gigafactory battery making plant in this town of Grunheider, southeast of Berlin. Now, the authorities in Berlin didn't like this and said, look, no, you can't do it. It's not on unless you get permission from the people who own the factory. And Elon Musk just went, yeah, go for it, go crazy. So there are videos that he's made all over YouTube. He's getting like 100,000 views on some of these videos. So we'll post up a bit of vision from that Musk super fan.
JC, one of the things I find so frustrating about Elon Musk is he does something that makes me want to strangle him, like describe the panic over coronavirus as dumb. Yeah. And then he does something that I think is super cool. Like there's not many companies where the CEO will just go, yeah, off you go for it, no problem.
Yeah. I think one word, it's like impetuous. You know, it's the kind of ready, fire, aim mentality.
Yeah, that's right.
It says, I'll just do whatever. I don't have much of a filter here. Yeah. And it might go well and it might not.
And sometimes it's really endearing. Sometimes it's massively infuriating.
Absolutely.
You never know what you're going to get.
Now, something that's, I don't know whether endearing is the right word, more confusing has been overnight. Elon has been on the Twitters and he posted, first of all, what is simple in one arena is often profound in another.
Right.
So most people just say, some say in Elon we trust and thank you and all that. Others just saying, what on earth are you on? What are you doing? I want some of that. But one person came up with a meme which I thought was nice, said, due to reduced pollution, we can now see the Matrix. So it's just a landscape shot with the running down streams of the Matrix coming down. I thought that was pretty clever. Then he came up with great differences in technology exist in the world about which even hardcore technologists are unaware. Right? Same kind of response. Yep. Some love, some not. Then you had a meme that was, the top half of it is, and we'll have it on screen for people watching on YouTube, celebrities in quarantine, and it's celebs around, Madonna singing into a hairbrush and all that kind of stuff. Elon in quarantine is one of those huge battle robots just standing in a warehouse, like, ready to go. And he's in it.
Ready to be switched back on.
Which I thought was pretty good.
Jeez.
Now, the share price has gone up to $548, nearly $549. That's up $100 on this time last week. Now, part of that is because production numbers for Q1 and delivery numbers were higher than the market's expectation. Yeah. So they delivered 88,400 vehicles, and the expectation was at about 80. So exceeded that, and up goes the share price, even in this market.
That amazes me, JC. Surely Tesla is one of the few car companies with the share price heading up at the moment.
No, absolutely. Actually, the stock market's been having one of those periods where it's like when it was in the Depression, where it keeps going up and then it'll drop huge, and then it'll go up and then it'll drop huge again. So this is
bizarre.
I suspect once maybe that sort of mentality moves away from the share price, maybe there'll be more of an adjustment to reality again.
Well, it's interesting because Jefferies is a well-regarded stock analyst and company in the US, and they've gone from to buy from hold. So they're now saying it's a good time to buy Tesla right now. Right. They can see a surge of 35% by the end of this year.
Wow.
So that's where they're at. By the end of 2020.
How's it make them?
I mean, a 35% upside.
I'm no stock specialist, but I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be throwing my money there.
This is probably a topic for another podcast, maybe even next week's podcast. But I suspect this whole coronavirus madness, I think when we get out of the other side of this, the car world's not going to look the same and may never again. I actually don't think everyone's going to get out of the other side of this.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
There you go. That's how upset I am by it.
You're not going to get out of the other side of this.
Yeah, correct. So it might be worth a little deep dive next time, I reckon, to see exactly where people are at, because there's a lot of hurt out there in Australia and around the world. It's incredible.
There will be some sifting through the ashes. I think you're right. Some analysis as things start to settle down. But speaking of settle down, I think we've reached the finish line. That is the end of the podcast for today. Thank you, Chesto.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Matt.
Thanks very much.
And thanks to our production happiness concierge, Mr. Pritchard, for his voodoo-like mixing and editing skills. Today, he's opted for a fez, Shrek hoodie, overly ripped jeans, and black business lace-ups trimmed with human teeth.
Yeah.
Which is confronting.
I don't mind the ripped jeans, JC. It's the location of the rips that bothers me.
There are just revealing. Just too many. Please pass on the word about the podcast and let us know your thoughts by searching for CarsGuide on Facebook and Instagram using the hashtag CGPodcast, or email us at comments@carsguide.com.au. If you're an iTunes listener, please rate and review us. And remember, you can watch us on YouTube. But before we go, cop pulls Chuck Norris over for going 80 kilometres an hour in a 60 zone. But because he wasn't in a car, they had to give him a ticket for jaywalking.
Chuck's back.
Chuck Norris.
Chuck must be about 150 now, surely.
Very fit.
Good on you, everyone. Thank you.
See you later, Keynes.